Alright, in this video we're going to cover the process of creating a Sunday service in Ableton by adding multitracks. So the first step is to open Ableton Live 9. Excellent, and once that's open, we're going to go ahead. The very first thing we're going to do is create a save file. So all of this rises and falls on good file management, really clean, organized, predictable file management. So you can get a lot wrong, but you can't get file management wrong with this process. So first thing we're going to do is go up here, File, Save Live Set As. There's nothing more frustrating than doing all the work and skipping this step and then forgetting to save it, or if you do save it, you save it as something like untitled or something dumb like that. So Save Live Set As, this is the best place to do this is right away. We're going to go not to desktop, we're going to go to Documents, Local Ableton Files, this week's worship set, and then, this is important, you're going to give it the date, space Sunday, space service, enter. So we're working with April 15th, 2018. We're going back in time a little bit just to use that as an example set for the video here. So this, what's loaded is a default template. This, every time you open Ableton, by default, it's going to open this live set, which is basically the skeleton of a Sunday service. It's got some tools in here. It's got some locators. You can see up in the overview, these little marks here, these lines are locators that I can jump to by pressing the 1 key, or the 2 key, or the 3 key, number 3, 4, 5. And the second step after we've created our save file actually is to rename these locators. So I'm going to come out of full screen here by pressing Command Control F, get out of full screen, and I'm going to pull up the Sunday service in Planning Center that we're working with. I've got that selected right here, and I want to be able to see both of these. So I want to be able to see Ableton and the Sunday service. I'm going to rename this locator, keeping the number 1. I'm going to move past that and type in Unstoppable God space dash space C, because that's the key that they're doing it in. You can tell Unstoppable God in the key of C. Now I'm going to press the number 2 key to jump to the second song and do the same thing. Rename this, keeping the number 2 in there. I'm going to name it the title, Reckless Love, space dash space, and the key, B. Enter. 3, same thing, rename it Worthy in the key of F. Excellent. So now I can go back into full screen. And the next step in the process is to drag and drop the multi-track content into our set here for these songs. So I'm going to unfold the search pane by clicking on this left arrow in the top left corner. Local Ableton Files is the space on the hard drive that I'm trying to look at. And then Current Catalog, I'm going to unfold that. And this is the library of all of the project documents for all of the songs in our current worship song catalog. So the first song I can see is Unstoppable God, and I find that right there. I have to unfold this project and then drop in the .als file. .als means it's a file that I can drag and drop into the set that I'm working on. So where it says drop files and devices here, I'm going to drop that .als file. And it's going to load in at the front of my live set. So I can see that up here. I'm going to click on the top left. I'm going to click and select the top clip that dropped in with that .als file. Then I'm going to move to the right side of the song and scroll down and shift click to select all of them. I'm going to shift click just outside the right side of the bottom clip. And it all becomes backlit blue. I'm going to do Command X to cut, press the 1 key to move to my first locator, Command V to paste. And then I'm going to do something similar for these red clips. I want to move all these red clips up into this set of master red tracks that existed in my template to begin with. So I don't have duplicates of these red tracks. That's kind of dumb. So to clean it up a little bit, I'm going to select the top clip here, move out past the right side of the bottom right clip and shift click, Command X to cut, and I can just arrow up to the click clip or the click track of the top red tracks. Command V to paste, and get rid of the packaging tracks that those clips came in when I dropped in my ALS file. Great. So the next song, I'm going to press the 2 key, Reckless Love, and do the same thing. So Reckless Love, unfold that project, and I want to drop in the .als file for the Passion version. I know that's the version they're going to do. Sometimes there's 2 versions within a project. It's rare, but sometimes it happens. And it loaded in about the same place toward the beginning of the set, so that's fine. I'm going to move there, select the top clip, move to the right side, and shift click out past the right side of the bottom clip. Command X to cut, 2 key to move to the second song, Command V to paste. And I want to move these red clips up again to my master set of red tracks by clicking on the top clip, shift clicking out past the right side of the bottom clip, Command X to cut, arrow up, and Command V to paste. Cool. Now I can get rid of the packaging, fold down this group of Reckless Love, and the 3 key to move to the third song, Worthy. So same process, drop in the ALS file for Worthy. Great, and it dropped in again toward the beginning of the set, so I have to go find it. Click on the top clip, shift click out past the right side of the bottom clip, Command X to cut, 3 to move to the third song, Command V to paste, and then move these up. Command V to paste, and get rid of the packaging. Great, so that is the step of just dragging and dropping all the multi-track content in. That is done. Now the next thing we need to do is adjust the keys so that the audio that we just dropped in will match what the band wants it to, the key that the band wants it to play in for the service. So remember when I'm going to press the 1 key to move back to the first song, when we loaded in, or when we renamed these locators, we entered the title and the key that we found on Planning Center. That's the key that the band wants to play it in. Now we have to reconcile that with the original key of the song, which we know from the original track. The clip that we dropped in with the ALS file has the title of the song and the key that the original recording is in this case B. And so there's a discrepancy there. We have to transpose the audio up to meet what the band wants it to sound like. So to do that, you click and select the clip in the original track and go down to the bottom right corner. There's this arrow that will unfold and open up this kind of bottom pane where I can get a good view at some of the clip content here. So I've got these boxes, clip, sample, and envelopes. We want to focus on the sample box, and I can manipulate a bunch of stuff about the audio with this. Specifically, I want to do the transpose wheel. So I'm going to click on the transpose wheel to select it. Now it's selected. Now I press the 1 key and enter because I want to go 1 semitone up. A semitone is a half step. It's just Ableton language for a half step. And so 1 semitone will take it from sounding in B to now sounding in C, which is exactly what we want. I have to do that. I've done that with the original track, but now I need to do it with all of the tonal instruments that came over with the multi-track. So I can skip the non-tonal instruments like drums and percussion, and the first tonal instrument is usually bass, sometimes it's something else, but all of the multi-tracks that I've ever seen have the non-tonal instruments at the top, like drums and percussion and stuff, and then as you scroll down, the first tonal instrument you come across, in this case bass, all of the instruments after that, all the tracks after that have tonal instruments. So what you can do, instead of having to click on and do each individual one, transpose up 1 step or 1 semitone, is you can click the top tonal instrument and then scroll down and shift click the bottom tonal instrument, in this case choir, and now that I've got all of these selected, you see the sample box has kind of this candy stripe dash color. If I select one of these, it's solid, just the color of the clip. but the dashed means I'm now manipulating aspects of multiple clips, which is good to know. So I'm going to click the transpose wheel, press the 1 key, press enter to move all of these up 1 semitone from B up to C, which is what we want. I'm going to fold that down and do the same thing for the next song. So number 2, Reckless Love, they want to play it in B, but originally it's in C, so this is the opposite. We need to go now from C down 1 semitone to B, so I'm going to click this to select it, and click on the transpose wheel, and now I just enter -1, enter, great, and do the same thing here. Grab the first tonal instrument, scroll down and shift click the bottom clip, transpose wheel, -1, enter, excellent. And the third song, Worthy, is originally in G, but they want to play it in F. So I need to go from G 2 semitones, or 1 whole step, 2 half steps down. So I'm going to click Worthy to select it, click the transpose wheel, and do -2 to go from G down to F. And I'm going to unfold the multi-track, skip drums and percussion, grab bass, and shift click BGVs, transpose wheel, -2, enter, and then fold that back down. So that is the step of adjusting keys. Now all of our multi-tracks are loaded, and they're going to sound in the key that the band wants them to sound in, which is wonderful. The next step, as we're getting all these multi-tracks situated in our set, is to adjust time signatures. This is a really important step. By default, Ableton will be in 4/4. This you can see up here, this is the metronome feature of Ableton. This is where the metronome information is, and it says it's in 4/4. By default, the template that we're using is going to be in 4/4. But some of the songs that we do might not be in 4/4. In this case, Reckless Love is not in 4/4, it's in 6/8. Officially, yes, it is 6/8. There's some debate about that, but it's definitely 6/8. So what I need to do is basically I need to tell Ableton what time signature the audio is playing back in, because Ableton is counting along with me, with the band, and with the audio, and it's counting 4/4 right now. If we're playing in 6/8 and the audio is in 6/8, but it's counting in 4/4, we could run into some problems that I'm not really going to explain here. Just know that this is an important step in the process when you're creating a Sunday service in Ableton. So we're going to go through and audit all of our audio here, make sure that everything is the proper time signature. We're going to press the 1 key to move to the first song, and you know the time signature by referencing the click track and the clip that's loaded into it. So this is the track, and this is the clip. The clip title is 4/4, so that tells me this song is in 4/4. Just like this told me this song is in B, this is going to tell me just at a glance what time signature it should be in, and that's what time signature it is in, which is wonderful. So Ableton is counting in 4/4 along to this 4/4 audio. That's what we want. Number 2, this one's in 6/8, but it's still counting in 4/4. You see that? So this still says 4/4. The grid still represents 4/4, and we need to change it to represent 6/8. So what I can do is if I move my mouse up to where it becomes a speaker, this will play back audio just by clicking here. That a single click essentially presses play in Ableton. But if I right click anywhere along the grid, I get the option to insert a time signature change. That's what I want. So I'm going to right click, insert time signature change, and I want to change the time signature of the grid to be 6/8. So 6/8. And you saw when I did that now the grid is different. This is 4/4, this is 6/8. We're zoomed out a little bit so it looks like kind of weird. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this looks like 3, but it's actually 6. So if I zoom in one more time, or 2 more times, now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And that's what we want. So just to give you an example of why we want that, I'm going to play, this is the metronome, this is the actual metronome button in Ableton. We could activate this and it's going to sound kind of super obnoxious, that beeping sound. That's not the metronome that we use. This clip actually plays the metronome that we use, and it sounds more like a wood block. But you hear the accent is in the same place.
Intro 4, 5, 6.
So that's what we want. We want the accent to the 1 to be where the 1 is. We want the 1 of Ableton metronome to be where the 1 is of our audio. So that's cool. Now we've adjusted this to be 6/8. Now the entire grid for the rest of time will be 6/8. We want to change that back to 4/4 at the end of the song, because 4/4 is the most common time signature we play in. It's actually another name for 4/4 is common time. So I'm going to do that right here, and it might look curious to you that I'm doing it right here where the audio is still playing back. It's okay to do it right here because there's really no audio happening right there. So this is fine to do, and I'd prefer to do it. I'll show you why. You might think I would do it where the audio actually ends, and I'll show you why I don't do that. If I do that, it's going to look kind of funny. So 4/4. What I did again was right-click and insert time signature change. 4/4, enter, and that it did change it back to 4/4, which is great. But you saw what it did here. It kind of mangled up measure 455. Now it's 1, 2. It's a 2-beat measure, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's just kind of sloppy, I think. So what I can do at this point is just drag this forward. So now this became 455. It was 456 above the 4/4 time signature change. If I drag the time signature change forward, it becomes 455 and honors measure 455, and 456 is now over here. So that's what I like to do there. And then you'd think we could just assume that worthy, I know that's in 4/4, so maybe I don't need to check. I changed it back to 4/4, so we're cool, right? Not necessarily. So let's take a look at worthy. If I press the 3 key, this is 4/4, and it should be 4/4. We know that from the clip. The problem is that the grid still doesn't line up with the 1 of the song. So if I turn the metronome on again, it's going to say 2, 3,
Intro
4,
2, 3, 4.
You hear this?
3,
1, 2,
4.
You hear how this metronome is, the accent for the 1 is off from this one. That's because if you look at it right here, you can see this is where the accent would hit, but that's the 3 of measure 528. So
Intro 2, 3.
So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, but the audio is playing back as 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So this is a 1 and this is a 1, and that's just messy. So what I could do is I could right-click here, insert a time signature change, 4/4, but then I have the same problem, right? I cheated measure 528. I'm going to delete that because that's not the solution that I want to reach for. What I could do is select and drag forward each individual clip here so that it lines up. I could drag forward this locator and this part and all that stuff. That's really time consuming, and there's a shorter solution that I can grab for. And that is to delete time. So Ableton has the cool feature set of being able to actually manipulate the space-time continuum. It gives you the option to select a space on the grid and delete time. That's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to select this little 2-beat section of 528, and I can do Command-Shift-Delete, or just to show you where that is, Edit, Delete Time, and that's going to pretend that what I had selected never existed. And it's going to drag forward everything after what I had selected. It's going to drag it forward to the beginning of what I had selected, which was the beginning of 528. So I selected this part and did delete time, and that pulled what was right here forward to right here. So that's it. That is the process, the step of adjusting time signature changes. And now we're pretty much done, but the very next thing that we need to do before we finish this section of the process, adding multitracks to an Ableton Live set in the process of creating a Sunday service, we need to collect all and save. We don't just want to save, so I'm going to go back up here, do File. Earlier I had you do Save Live Set As, which allowed us to name the live set appropriately, which is wonderful. But if I just do Save Live Set, That would be fine if I was building the set on the computer that I'm going to use for Sunday. But if I want to export this project to a different computer, which is how we always do this, we build it on one computer and then export it to the stage computer, then I need to do collect all and save. And the reason for that is because this live set currently is using a bunch of different audio files. Each one of these tracks and clips is an audio file that's located in the project here, for Worthy, for instance. All of these little things are referenced in different places on my hard drive. And as long as I keep the set on this computer, everything works fine. I can open it and I can just do save live set and then reopen it and it'll play back fine because it knows on this computer where to find those files. If I move it to a different computer, I need to make sure I'm moving all of these files with it, with that project. So currently, this project just kind of has directions to get to the files that it needs. But if I do collect all and save, it's going to make a copy of every file that it's using and put it into the project for this service, which is what we want to do essentially. So collect all and save, and this will take a second. This looks good. Yes, 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 no. Okay. It takes a second because again it's literally making a copy of every single audio file that we have selected here. Great, so now this would be ready to export and move on to a different computer, at least in terms of how I've saved it and organized it all. Tune in next time for, just to recap what we did. We created a save file, we named locators, we dragged and dropped ALS files, and we adjusted keys and time signature changes, and then we did collect all and save to package it all together in our project for this Sunday service. Tune in next time and we'll cover creating transitions in the service. Thanks.